What's up, guys? Welcome to Untier Talk with your favorite host, HJad, and your not favorite host, Megazard. Say hi, Megazard.
Hi, Megazard.
Hi, Megazard. Okay. Um, so lots of stuff has happened in PU over the
I mean, not lots of stuff, just one big thing.
yeah. Okay, we can partition that into one big thing. Lots of small stuffs, big stuffs. I don't know how you want to put it, but
Okay.
basically, what we're trying to say is drops happened. So the tier has been like in a state of mania for the last.
Not just
Well,
drops, we also lost Ninetales, never forget.
oh, never forget that. I was about to ask you, did you lose anything? And I forget. Oh yeah, we lost Ninetales. Rest in peace, Ninetales. So yeah, I mean, so what did we get in the shifts? We got Quagsire, we got Jellicent, and we got the Boohoo Dodrio. Um, yeah, what's
Honestly, I almost think Jellicent is a better mon than Dodrio.
honestly, I think it's that's a debate that can be had. I don't think it's just one sided because I think Specs Jellison is like on a like I don't know how to explain it. It's just better than it's like a special aggron.
Yeah, it is
Like I don't,
real. It is a real strong mon. And people kept talking about the offensive set was going to be like Scarf Water Spout. That just doesn't quite do enough. It's not quite scary enough. Specs Jellicent, though, yeah, it's like a special aggron, except you can get Pursuit Trapped.
yeah, like it's a if you imagine it, it's got so much coverage as well, dude. Like I was looking through its move pool the other day. It's got like Energy Balls, Psychic, Dazzling Gleam. Like granted, you only have room for one of those things
Okay, you
outside of like
don't like most of those don't even matter. It's not like you really need any of that.
yeah.
You've got Dual
I think.
Stab, and I would say
Oh,
the
nice.
best last move is Ice Beam. And like, what else
Yeah,
do you really like? Why? This trick, if you want to hit the clefs or the odd nose because you think you're out of, water spout's going to be too weak, you're not going to be able to healing wish it or whatever. Other than that,
you're
like,
gonna run that off. Yeah. No, I was thinking on along the lines of you know running Psychic over potentially well in that last move slot, for example, you
so you
could
can get
use that.
trapped by skunk even harder.
No, to hit Poliwrath. So yeah, no, like,
Shadow ball
Poliwrath
does
and
like a
Rosé.
billion.
Yeah, well, it's like it's one of those things. It has like room to function depending on how the meta wants to transition for it. So that's what like shook me the most when I saw the like because we theory on this I think a while ago, wasn't it? Like at least 2 months before drops happened. I think the council had a chat about Jellison, and we were discussing whether if in a prospective drop, Jellison was broken or not.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the sets that did come up was specs and how hard would it be to kill the defensive set. And I feel like the defensive set in itself is balanced, but the spec set is feeling,
It's
definitely on the more broken end of the spectrum.
it's a very dangerous mon, and I will say one thing: it feels stupid, but it doesn't feel like it's. It doesn't quite yet feel like it's completely just running the tier or overrunning everything, or you have no chance, or um, Specs Jelson does not feel that way to me. Dodrio does not feel that way to me. I still feel like there are enough options to have like good, solid games of PU, which is the most important thing. I genuinely hear people having the opposite opinion that like Dodrio was so bad we had to get rid of it. So I do want to say every time we say it's like broken or whatever, it's not. It's not Aromatisse
Mm.
as the most recent reference for something that was just completely stupid and you could not have fun with that around.
Yeah, I was well, let's stick on Jellison for a while because I think that is an it's a extremely interesting case because if you look at it, it's a Pokemon that you'd expect to be balanced, and it's feeling a bit worse for wear. I think the reason why it feels like Jellison is easier or easy-ish to play around at the moment is just because of novelty, the novelty factor. Newmon dropped like not longer than a week ago now, and people are just picking up, whatever they can use. People are trying to use, defensive sets, spec sets, staff sets, whatever it may be, right?
Mm.
So I think it's just coming down now to, how does this Pokemon impact the tier in the long term, and we can make a judgment on that when it happens,
Yeah, and the way it does is kind of reintroduces the Kingler thing of where's your water resist, but in a very different way that a lot of water resists aren't sufficient or easier to chip now. Kind of in the Kingler way, but feels different, and I don't know. I don't know. It's a bad thing. I still thought Kingler was should not have been banned. But it's almost as if the thing that annoys me about Jellicent is that it becomes the prediction game of is it clicking the water stab or the ghost stab, or at least Kingler was consistent enough that it didn't feel like a lot of high pressure risk reward decisions that almost like feel less fun than just knowing they're going to click with liquidation. Not in a balanced sense, but just in like an enjoyment sense. I think that's one of the reasons people might be getting frustrated by Jellicent is that you really have to, every time it comes in and it's the ghost versus the water move, you're often really gonna have to like critically decide what's the whole risk versus reward situation, and it can get awfully annoying.
Yeah, especially with like if skill level was like consistent, it would be not too bad because then you could sort of deduce based on how many checks and counters to each type you have, whether what type of move the opponent's going to click. But I think what's going to be more frustrating is that X player in one position will click Water Spout and Y player will click Shadow Ball, depending on how good or bad they are. And maybe you predict them to be good and click Water Spout versus no water resist, for example, or like at least one, and then they click Shadow Ball and hit something entirely differently that you weren't expecting. I think that will be frustrating. But overall, I think Jellicent's going to be one of those mons where it's going to be like, it's going to be one of those things where the meta is just going to adapt. I think over time, I think people we'll see how people adapt, because I feel like it's definitely not like left the attention, I think, of the council. I think we can all say that.
No, we're looking at it, and it feels annoying. It feels like a different kind of mon, the same way, Kingler felt annoying or Archeops felt annoying. But those obviously had a much longer time to develop. Yeah. Moreover, feeling annoying is almost just like feeling different, because those risk reward situations I was talking about, like every time you have to consider, what can possibly switch in and what would I be okay with losing or getting chipped or whatever. That is really something that does happen with other mons. Jellicent just really makes you feel it really hard because of how strong and powerful it is, but it's not like that's remotely unique to Jellicent, and it's just something that's slightly less common in a meta where the wall breakers are just slightly less stupidly powerful. But like Aggron makes me feel the same way. I don't know. I feel like I said that without qualifying it really well, and it didn't come out right. It can probably get misinterpreted, but whatever. If people start saying that, then I'll just say oops to them. It's a high risk, high reward Pokemon that has you feeling that all the time. So does other shit. So whatever. It might end up being stupid, but I think just like with Dodrio, we if we give it the time to adapt, I don't think this is something we need to toss directly out of the tier. I want to make it work.
Yeah, I think it was the better decision to leave Jellicent in the tier, because there was a very real possibility that the spec set wouldn't catch on, and it still might not catch on. Like, we still have a good few weeks, months.
The specs is catching on.
It's gonna happen. I think it will catch on. But we'll see what happens. I think I've seen. I was theory running with Dibs earlier today, and we were thinking of some checks. We came across Roselia and Servine and Ludicolo. We were all thinking about basically very similar to Kingler checks. So I wonder if it'll function similarly to Kingler, but without the agility and ability to be pursued.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see how the tier adapts. I think. Do you want to move on to Dodrio now, the Bogeyman?
Sure, just real quick, when you were saying looking for checks and counters, people really mix up when something is overbearing enough to force you to look for a dumb counter, and when something just like lets you find these mons and create niches for these mons, but isn't like so actively forcing you to do so that it becomes a ban argument. I was trying Subseed Ludicolo as a way to mess with Jellicent, but like I don't have to. Stunfisk is a relevant thing that will stop Dodrio, but it's not like it's the only thing. It's just a mon that had already been getting better, and now, hey, look, it stops this thing. Stunfisk, because we're using Stunfisk to stop Dodrio, does not inherently necessarily make it broken, because the reasoning is just different, and people do not accept that difference all the time.
Yeah, I agree. I think personally on some teams, you don't need to run an aggron counter or a Jellison switch in or these types of or like even an Aurora's check. Like some types of teams don't need that because you know the pressure that a team can apply often means that those Pokemon are non-factors anyway, and you just trade them out one for one. Make sure you get your Stealth Rocks up and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, like you can't do that if you're running like a Clef or something, but if everything's nice and offensive, sure, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The reason why Kingler sort of feasted on stuff like Clef, or like Regirock, for example. So you needed to have an active way of checking or like switching into Kingler in that scenario. But teams with Mesprit that are more offensively based won't need that. They can run a Silvally or a Quillfish or whatever, and then just say adios to whatever Kingler comes in. I think it's similar with Dodrio. Honestly, I feel like Dodrio is one of those Pokemon where it's checked by everything and nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So speaking of Dodrio, people thought it was real stupid at the beginning, and then Council was like, "We're not quick banning it." And they all cried, and that was a fun story. But yeah, I mean, people really, really thought Dodrio was going to be just busted, like pre-drop Therium moning, and then it came down, and it is a real strong mon. But I don't think anyone necessarily appreciated how much you can just check this thing, and it's weird.
Yeah, I'd say it's one of those things where. When I reference checking everything and nothing, I mean Dodrio can't do anything if you have a max HP Mesprit, for example, right? It can't do anything in that scenario. Similarly, it can't do anything in the scenario where it's 1v1 versus a Regirock, okay? But in the scenario where you have a free Swords Dance, then it does things. So what you have to look at then is in which scenarios does Dodrio actually get a free Swords Dance? Like 100% guaranteed, where it's risk-free and not an incredible play. And you think of Pokemon and you think of Clef, you think of... Honestly, there's not much else apart from Clef.
No, it doesn't set up well, and setting up is what makes it strong, but it's really not that powerful. It's not that guaranteed of a sweeper or a breaker. It feels a lot more like kind of not like Jellicent, but imagine like Specs Jellicent is scary, but there's always if you do get the Shadow Ball versus water move thing correctly, and you can consistently stop it, then it'll look stupid. It'll look like Jellicent does absolutely nothing. Or like Aggron. Yeah. Let's say you have say you got like a Mudsdale, and then you got something that will pivot into Ice Punch. Aggron kind of have to be really scary if he catches one of the things with the right move, but it can also look like Aggron just does absolutely nothing and is a terrible mon if you consistently just outplay it. And Dodrio is similar in that vein, where it can be real scary, but there are plenty of ways to outplay it and make it look really dumb. And
yeah. I just want to say that it's it's one of those Pokemon where, okay, it's scary when he gets a Sword Dance up. I don't think anybody can deny that. But once it gets a Sword Dance off, and let's say it kills something, let's say if the other guy makes a prediction or whatever, and Sword Dance is on something stupid like a Frostlass, right? You didn't want to risk the speed tie, so you switched your Frostlass out, and Dodrio clicked Sword Dance. Okay, sure it's going to kill your Regirock, or sure it's going to kill whatever thing you switched into. Okay, but you can easily go out into your Starter or your thing that's faster than Dodrio and then revenge kill it. It's, I think, for it to be scary, it needed to, or more scary, it needed to have more, you know, pre-Swords Dance breaking power, similar to how Kingler had that, right?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think,
It is weirdly okay, but not incredible enough as an unboosted breaker. In fact, what it really feels like is if you go watch a game of NU is much more to me. You can see having a lot of mons that like set up just to break one thing, and then they're forced out and they have to switch out. It's not like a setup mon where it's going to get 2 to 3 kills. It's not like this guaranteed breaker. You just find your opportunity to like set up and lure or KO like one specific defensive mon, but then that's it for you. It's not like you're taking out the whole team. That is much more in line with what Dodrio does than a sweeper or a cleaner or anything.
yeah, I think the best set that will stand the test of time, I think, would be the Flyinium set, as opposed to the, you know, aforementioned, and everyone was like going crazy about the All Out Pummeling set. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like with Flyinium, oh, with the All Out Pummeling set, the stuff that checks Dodrio, like that you would hit with All Out Pummeling, so stuff like Regirock, Caracosta, I think people threw Carbink into the debate. I think all those things will, or like, people will realize that it's more worth to just be good versus those Pokemon and have checks and switch-ins and just whittle them over time than actively try to beat them with Dodrio, because I don't think it's going to be worth it. I feel like it's more important to have the pre-boosting power, as we were talking about, of
Yeah, I
Supersonic
agree.
Sky Strike from Flavor. So, just so Dodrio has that threat level before it Swords Dances. Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
I
I
think.
found Flyinium much better. I do want to say real briefly, this is not something I've tried, but something I have theory monned and have meant to try. Um, Stomping Tantrum is like 15 base power weaker than Jump Kick, which does notably matter for some calcs. But it hits Carbink, it hits Stunfisk, and it's not stopped by the Choppleberry, which is increasingly becoming like Regirock's item, and you see it on support Agrons and whatever. And that might be a more relevant thing to look out for. Plus, if you wanted to run Fightinium, then you couldn't necessarily smack Jellicent quite as well, whereas Z Stomping Tantrum is like slightly better than Brave Bird, I think. Might not be worth it at all. It is weaker, but it's something to think about.
I think it's weird because Stomping Tantrum, it does have that really cool side effect of, if it fails, it does double the power next turn. Um, I don't know if anybody's going to try and do something with that, or if, does it work if
No,
you
it's
go into
not if
like.
Stomping Tantrum fails. It's if any of your moves fail. So that is not really common for Dodrio. What you have is A, like getting taunted on a sword stance by something faster, which that's not really a relevant thing where you'd want to go for a Stomping Tantrum. Or B, if you return into a ghost, then Stomping Tantrum is going to be stronger. Um,
I was thinking
but unless
along the lines
you
of,
you're thinking what?
yeah, go on. I was thinking along the lines of, you go into Regirock, the Regirock protects, your move fails, and then Stomping Tantrum does double next turn.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's not super common. I was totally wrong. Tectonic Rage is still weaker than Brave Bird, so ignore that. It's not better. Yeah, I've run that kind of stomping tantrum gimmick, like in Little Cup. If you have a chest with Zen Headbutt and stomping tantrum, you can Zen Headbutt to Poniard and then get your boosted ground move. With Dodrio, the only thing I was theory modding was that you would have to run Toxic, so that you could Toxic into Aggron and then like your boosted Stomping Tantrum. But that's still like not really doing much for you.
Yeah, I mean, with Dodrio, you don't want to be pressing
Status
Copy.
moves.
Like that's basically equivalent to clicking sword stance, pretty much, isn't it? Like you're not gonna be
Well,
toxicking
like if you
a
Sword Dance,
Regirock.
they go hard Regirock, that was worthless. If you Sword Dance, they go hard Regirock, you got a Toxic. So, like, there's that. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like you would want to do that. I don't think that's going to be relevant here unless someone comes up with something real nutty. Oh, you could Feather Dance into the clear body Regirock. There you go.
elite plays. Oh, you
But here's
mean
the
Feather
thing, like
Dance into
that's
Sturdy
that's
Regirock?
that's on switching. So it's going to be just as powerful as if you just Stomping Tantrum twice. What you need is a move that is useful if they don't switch into Regirock. So it's like this move is not going to affect the
Because
switch in, but it's
what
also going to be
about
useful if they stay in.
what about the mirror move
Oh,
and they switch?
that can fail, can't? Oh, does that
Yeah,
automatically fail if they switch? I thought it just used the last
yeah.
move.
It does. Oh, I thought it failed if you switch.
I know it can fail sometimes. Let me look at Mirror Move Bulbapedia. Hang on. So
Because you gain attack, don't you? So you gain what a sword stance +2 attack, and then if they switch into Regirock, it fails. So you
uses the
have
last
150.
uses the last move targeted at the user by a Pokemon still on the field. Mirror Move will fail if the target did not make a move selection the round before the use of Mirror Move or switches out during the round Mirror Move is used. So yeah, if
Yeah,
they
so
so Z Mirror Move will actually get them if they switch, and then Stomping Tantrum at so Dojo's +2, 150 base power. That's doubled Stomping Tantrum versus the standard Regirock of
that should be
252,
alright.
56 bold does 76 to 90. Um,
Fuck. I thought we broke the meta.
I mean, that is an 18.8% chance to Oko, and it will totally bop it with like chip damage when you would think your Regirock will be safe, especially if it's Chople. So that is legitimately a thing, I suppose.
Yeah, and then you just run quick attack, I suppose, in your last slot, try and hit
Yeah,
the Primeape or whatever, trying to revenge
I
you.
have not seen the Scarf Primeape in a hot second. I mean, it's fucked by Jellicent. Scarf Togue is significantly more relevant now, which also outspeeds the Primeape. Frostlass continues to really annoy it. In fact, coming to
You
think
can't
of
click
it,
close
is
combat.
Primeape still an A plus mon on the rankings? Because I would definitely drop that. It is A rank, and it would be worth considering dropping, to be completely honest.
You
In fact, I do think we need
see,
to mess with the ranks more. I don't know that Scyther should be an A rank anymore either. Um,
yeah,
Clefairy can actually probably stay, so that's cute. But I think we might be able to rise Electros again. It has gotten like a lot more fun. And
mhm.
maybe a Alolan Sandslash. I'm not sure. Like it really doesn't like Jellicent, but it is still, I don't know. Actually, it's probably not a good nom.
Yeah, a lot of
Point is,
sense is like
in fact, we don't even really need to bump anything from A minus. Come to think of it, like nothing's really crying out for it. But I would consider dropping Primeape at this point.
so yeah, on the Lowland Sandslash, I'm thinking that Pokemon is like the ultimate roll compression, right? Because you have Stealth Rocks, you have Spin, and you have the Aurora's check. So that's a lot of utility that you get out of one Pokemon.
Yeah,
Also, along with the Primate thing, every time that I think about dropping Primate, I just think about a Primate Stone Edging the Frostlass and then you turning on Mesprit with a Skuntank as like a pursuit thing. And I always think
I
that's
mean,
scary. I
Primeape's
don't think you
great
get
if
it.
you play perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing, right? Because if a Frostlass is on the field, or a Jellicent is on the field, that Primate will never click close combat. And if it doesn't click close combat, it is so bad. It is really bad. Like,
It's a
what are you
weak
gonna do?
it's a weak
Yeah,
mon
it's
that like
so
can do a lot, but because it has to be so perfect, I don't think it's quite at the A rank level, like
yeah, dude.
top tier threats and all that.
Yeah, do you remember when Persimmon was in the tier, right? And even if it didn't do anything with close combat, you could still switch it in on things. It still had a defensive utility.
Well, not just
So you
that.
could
Banded knockoff was even scarf knockoff because it could remove items. It didn't matter how weak it was. It was almost always like a solid move to hit. It just didn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah, yeah. Primate, unfortunately, for Primate, it doesn't actually have something like that. I think the closest thing it has to that would be like Gunk Shot and try and fish for a poison.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
no, that's dumb. You're more likely to miss than you are to poison. I think. I'm actually not sure.
it's 30,
It
30.
might be
It's
30%.
30, 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, gunk shot
it's
is
30, yeah.
80, so it's 30%
Oh,
poison versus 20% miss. So
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to dropping it, to be honest, just because it's like you don't want to click close combat in a meta where it's sort of like, you know, ghost types are here to stay. Like they're everywhere now. Also, you have to consider that stuff like Saberlight is becoming more popular. Um, Tangela has been quite popular as well. So
Tango is
we
not one I've actually seen, but I mean I'll take your word for it.
maybe that's just me then. But like when you have Primate versus Tangela, like
I don't know.
you just U-turn to 20 on
Yeah,
Tangela.
Primate suffers, but at the same time, things are gonna suffer. And one of the things I really like about this meta is that I literally was able to build a list in about like 4 minutes of just a bunch of different cores and mons that I think I want to try again, that I think are different, that I think are cool and worth testing out and using. Maybe I'll bring some of them to PU Ladder Tour or whatever. But there's so much I do want to do that I have all these ideas, and it's really worth thinking about because so much has changed and so much is cool and interesting. And there's just a lot to try, and I like it. And PU's fun, and tier shifts are fun. Even when they're stupid, they're still fun. So, yay.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of like the meta hasn't even settled down, I'd say properly from the Pyros aspect.
No.
Where like definitive teams have been placed for each archetypes, and you think, okay, this is balance, this is offense, this is stall, this is this is how you beat those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like PU now is sort of it was in that transition phase, becoming a bit more, this is the meta now, and basically the tier shift went, nah, bro, this is what's gonna happen, and then just nukes us with Jellicent, Quagsire, and then
Everything is different. Up is down, left is right. And speaking of Quagsire, I think we should hit that before we wrap up because that is the other drop, and it is a third thing. Some people are saying it might be broken, although actually I don't. Come to think of it, I really haven't seen anyone other than Zugaboo say that.
Well, here's my thing with Quagsire. I think Quagsire is really good for balance. I feel like it checks a few things that balance, or it gives balance a few options that it previously didn't have, right? So if you balance and you wanted a reliable, long-term stone.
Check to so many things. Aggron, Lycanroc, Girder, Kangaskhan, Dodrio now, like not banded sets, and that wasn't a thing in the past. Does it take 2 hits from Band Stout? It might. I'm not sure.
No, it doesn't. I don't think so.
Stoutland.
I think it struggles to take on Silk Scarf Kanga. I didn't think it would. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Stoutland definitely 2-hit KOs, but Kangaskhan, Silk Scarf Double Edge is a guaranteed 3-hit KO after Rocks and Lefty's recovery.
Okay.
From Adamant Silk Scarf Kanga, which is pretty impressive, not gonna lie. But yeah, so many other things. Kabutops, Sand / Hail, we don't have to list all of them, but point is, like, I legitimately like its roll compression, and I think just by checking all that, that's a good thing. So I hope we don't have to get rid of it. I hope Stall doesn't get broken. It's much harder to see because no one hypes up Stall that fast at the beginning of a tier shift in PU. In other metas, yeah, but no one's really been that Stall champion that much. So it'll take much longer to see if Quagsire is that bad before we see if anything else, if Dodrio or Jellicent is that bad. I don't see it breaking Stall. I think we just have a lot of techs and options and different mons that stall can't handle, because they're just not able to prep for everything. It is a possibility in the future, but for now, I do like the way its role compression is headed. So hopefully that sticks around.
Yeah, I was thinking, like the thing with Quagsire, the big disadvantage that immediately hits me when I think of Quagsire is just that it's so passive. The one is basically dependent on Toxic to, you know, be offensive or have that offensive pressure, right? So, or like Curse. So, it's not going to be threatening whatever you want to switch in, unless it's like a Simisear. You're not going to be switching a Simisear, but it's not going to threaten a Alolan Exeggutor, for example, or it's really going to come down to how people opt to pressure it. And I feel like over the course of the tier becoming more, accustomed to Quagsire's presence, I think people will come up with new and innovative ways of really punishing Quagsire being passive or like, allowing things to switch in.
I agree. It's definitely a mon where you don't just look at it and be like, what? How am I possibly going to beat that? Like, even Jellicent on paper feels more of like a how do I handle this mon? How do I like break it mon than Quagsire? Quagsire, it's not hard to start thinking of things. And like, Lilligant is stupid good right now. Just throwing it out there. Lilligant is really, really good. It absolutely, like, we bumped it up to A plus, I think only like last shift or something, and it is not leaving A plus. It is real threatening, real strong, and that is like only getting better. Also spec sets, so that's fun. I don't know, like there's ways to handle Quag. That is pretty much everything we want to talk about. If you have anything else you want to say, I do have one last statement. You can go. You can go first.
I just want to say the best switching for Quagsire is obviously defensive Kadabra with a Violet. By far the easiest way of switching in.
Okay, so in other news, people keep asking about suspects, and like, cool it and wait, please. I don't think it's really fair to suspect anything this close. I think we would have to be UU or OU to be like active and solid enough to already be suspecting things. We intentionally didn't ban Dodrio, didn't quick ban, didn't even think about quick banning Jellicent because we want to see how they play out. People have also asked a lot about Samurott retest. I would be so down for that, but the meta has to wait and settle. And the annoying thing with PU is always like, oh, wait and settle, but the tier shifts come every 3 months, so nothing's, it keeps getting messed up. So that would either have to be like, if we didn't suspect anything, if we didn't need to get rid of Dodrio or Jellicent, and then like 2 months down the line, maybe, it's not impossible, or maybe nothing comes from shifts, and that would also make it easier to suspect. Like, I would love to get back to Samurott. It was that has always been the plan, to hopefully get back to the things in PUBL, and that is like the one thing that doesn't look super broken, especially with Jellicent. It would be very cool. I would love to have Samurott. I just think it'd be fun. But let's wait and have a good meta first, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Boy, that sigh is going to sound terrible on this mic. I mean, this cheese grater. So yeah, I think that's all. I like Samurott.
Okay.
Samurott's cute. We also need Overgrow Superior back in PU. Make it happen.
I think the thing with Samu is that it's one of those things where is it worth the hassle of bringing it back to the tier? And
well, yeah, that's the question. Like, do we need to introduce another threat? But if PU can successfully handle the threat level of Jellicent and Dodrio, and Samurott's already going to have like the built-in, like, SD doesn't even sound that amazing if you've got Jellicent and the Quagsire running. Well, I know it gets knockoff for Jellicent. Like, SD doesn't sound like that crazy, to be completely honest.
Well, the thing is, it's not for me that SD is the scary thing. It's gonna be SD in combination with the special set, and it's gonna be like,
Yeah, no, I know.
okay, is this special
I
set?
know,
Is
but
this
I would
SD
love
set?
to. I would love to try it. I would not forget that. Like, yes, it may still just be too much of a hassle, but I would love to try it because I like Samurott.
Yeah, Summer's a fun one. You know.
It's a cute mon. It's got those big scimitars. I think they are actually called scimitars. Like for Oshawott Duat, they're like Scalchops, and then for Samurott, they become scimitars. I think.
Which Pokemon did you pick in your starter for what was it, Gen 6 when Stoutland came? Or no, it was Gen
That's
5
Gen
when it
5. The very first run. So this is a fact that I actually know. I don't remember, but I'm reasonably certain it was a Tepig. Um,
okay. I took Snivy because I'm a grass casual. We love grass types.
nah. All right. Thanks everyone for listening to another one of these little thingamajigs. Hope you all have an excellent time. Um, oh, hey Jad, what do you think about Meltan?
Sorry, what did you say?
What do you think about Meltan?
I have no idea what that is.
You don't know what Meltan is?
No, I
What?
don't.
You haven't seen? Oh my god. Okay. Next week, guys, the saga continues where Jad and I briefly discuss Meltan. See y'all next time.